Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So, you've got a killer idea, right? But have you ever wondered what exactly happens behind the scenes when someone decides to turn that brilliant idea into a real, functioning business? It's not just about having a great product. It's about how you build the actual foundation. Let's dive into this exciting journey of understanding how businesses are structured and look at the very blueprints of commerce.
To really grasp this, let's look at Neha. She's a final-year student who started a hand-painted pottery business right out of her living room. She was just decorating clay pots and bowls, saving a ton on rent and getting incredible word-of-mouth publicity. By the end of summer, she made a neat profit of 2,500 rupees from a really paltry investment in just colors and pottery. Naturally, she's thrilled and wants to scale up. But now she's facing a massive dilemma. How should she structure her growing business? She needs more money, and her father suggested partnering with her cousin, or maybe even forming a company. She's in a bit of a fix, and finding the answer requires a careful look at all of her options.
To help her out, here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover the entrepreneur's dilemma, the sole proprietor, the power in partnerships, cooperatives and companies, and finally choosing your business form. All right, part one, the entrepreneur's dilemma. Because taking an idea from the living room to a storefront requires some highly strategic decisions about capital, risk, and control.
Which brings us to part two, the sole proprietor. This is the absolute simplest and most common starting point for small businesses, and it's exactly how Neha is currently operating.
So, a sole proprietorship is pretty much what it sounds like. Sole meaning only, and proprietor meaning owner. You run the show. You are the sole recipient of all profits, but, and this is a big but, you are also the bearer of all risks. This form is absolutely perfect for personalized services, things like a neighborhood stationery store, a beauty parlor, or Neha's custom pottery, where the owner dictates every single move and has that direct connection with the customer.
Get this fascinating historical anecdote. $2,300. That's all it took. Back in 1886, Dr. John Pemberton invented the syrup for Coca-Cola, but he never really realized its full potential, so he sold off portions of the business. Then, Asa G. Candler swoops in. By 1891, Mr. Candler bought up all the additional business rights to achieve sole ownership of the Coca-Cola empire. And it only took an investment of $2,300 for him to become the sole proprietor of what is now a massive global brand.
But you know, it's not all just refreshing beverages and keeping all the cash. Let's weigh the merits against the limitations. Yes, the sheer freedom of sole ownership means you make incredibly quick decisions, and you keep 100% of the profit. However, there is a terrifying reality attached to this: unlimited liability. In the eyes of the law, you and your business are the exact same entity. The source gives this striking example of the XYZ dry cleaner. Let's say the firm has 80,000 rupees in debt when it dissolves, but only has 60,000 rupees in business assets. That remaining 20,000 rupees doesn't just magically disappear. The sole proprietor has to pay that out of pocket. We're talking literally having to sell your personal car to pay off the business's debt.
Moving right along to part three, power in partnerships. To avoid carrying all that terrifying financial risk alone and to raise the funds she needs, Neha's father suggests joining forces with her cousin.
Look at this perspective from L.A. Cheney. It perfectly captures it. Partnerships are fundamentally about coming together. It's an agreement to combine your property, your labor, or your unique skills to share the heavy lifting. You pool your capital, you share the management responsibilities, and you actually make decisions with mutual consent.
And there are some really fascinating nuances to partnership roles here. You don't necessarily have to be the face of the business to be a partner. Check this out. An active partner contributes capital and runs the day-to-day. But a sleeping partner? They just drop the cash and share in the profits without managing a thing. A secret partner is involved, but the general public has no idea. And a nominal partner doesn't even contribute capital or take profits. They just lend their name to the firm for credibility. But notice the vital pattern across all of these roles. Whether you are active, sleeping, secret, or nominal, your liability remains unlimited. If the ship sinks, you are still on the hook. Because partnerships involve multiple people and high stakes, you need a rule book. While registering a partnership firm is technically optional, drafting a clear, written agreement, a partnership deed, is absolutely crucial. It outlines everything: who invests what, how profits are split, and exactly how disputes will be solved. Honestly, relying on a handshake is just a recipe for messy misunderstandings down the road.
Okay, part four, cooperatives and companies. Because what happens when a business completely outgrows a handful of partners? What if you need to scale up massively, or your goal isn't just private profit?
Let's look at the cooperative society first. This is a highly unique structure.
It's a voluntary association designed not necessarily to maximize profit, but to protect the interests of its members. The coolest feature here is its democratic control. The principle is one member, one vote, literally regardless of how much capital you contributed. A great example from the text is consumer cooperative societies. People band together to buy goods in bulk directly from wholesalers. They completely eliminate the middlemen, securing cheaper, good-quality products for everyone involved.
But if your goal is massive scale and massive capital, you're looking at forming a company. And there is a stark contrast between a private company and a public company. A private company is tighter. It's limited to 200 members, and you can't just freely sell your shares to a stranger on the street. A public company, though, you can freely invite the general public to subscribe to its securities, allowing you to tap into unbelievable financial resources. The major trade-off here is that while public companies offer the huge advantage of limited liability for shareholders, they face incredibly complex legal formalities. Plus, there is a deep separation of ownership from management. The shareholders own the company, sure, but a board of directors actually runs it. And as you can imagine, that can sometimes lead to serious conflicts of interest.
Finally, Part 5, choosing your business form. Let's bring this all back to Neha's dilemma. And really, to anyone sitting on a great business idea right now. How do you actually make this call? The choice ultimately comes down to balancing a few key factors. If you want a business that is extremely cheap and easy to form, where you hold 100% of the control and keep 100% of the profits, you choose a sole proprietorship. But you have to accept limited capital and the terrifying risk of unlimited personal liability. Now, if you need massive capital to build a giant manufacturing plant and you want limited liability protecting your personal assets, you form a joint stock company. But you must be prepared to give up total control, share those profits, and deal with heavy government regulations. It is totally a balancing act based entirely on what your specific business needs.
So, we've laid out the blueprints. We've seen the sheer freedom of the sole proprietor, the shared strength of a partnership, the community focus of a cooperative, and the massive scale of a company. I want you to think about Neha's pottery business, and more importantly, your own ideas. If you started a business today, with your current resources and your specific goals, which path would you choose? Think about it. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep learning.